And he told us of his life, and like that's the so we searched upon YouTube till we found his tank something, and we smiled, we found a way. I saw the fish on my street. We on the fish brings my drink. He keeps his tank simple. The plants they are so green. We all love his fluffy beard and it's so white. His eyes they are so bright. He always keeps it tight. And my friends are all aboard. Many more of them. They still start. Love to watch him on replay. We all love the fish is great by three. His tanks they are so clean.
Mercy. It ain't working all that well.
No, it's coming across really staticky on my end.
How much gap have we got? Joey.
A good one.
Yeah, we got a gap. Okay. She'll be right back. Let me post the link again. Oh my. So the lamp got knocked on the floor. The screen got messed up. We're starting typically in chaos. Notwithstanding my best efforts to do everything just right, we're starting typically in chaos.
Yeah. Well, good morning, everyone.
Hi there. Oh, Lord.
It's just getting to be, a regular thing, right?
It is, yeah. I don't know. I think if it ever flowed smoothly, we think we were on Mars or something.
It's like we won't know what to do if it starts out right?
Yeah. I wasn't going to do the music this morning because it's always chaotic.
Yeah.
If you knew what I was dealing with here, you would understand. I am not set up to do this. I've got everything perched precariously, myself included. And so it's very easy for things to just collapse.
Yeah.
And when one thing collapses, something else does too. There's a domino effect to all of this.
Of course.
Richie. Hello, Richie.
Yes.
Hello, Howard Van Tassel. Tom Shepard. David Fellows. Chevy Fish. Hi, Chevy Fish. Gene Campbell. Falconry Fun. Reese Noons. Hi, Reese. Reese's mother was in the shop yesterday trying to find a piece of driftwood, and she didn't find what she wanted. Like all my nice mid-sized pieces are pretty well gone, but I had a really extraordinary big piece, but it was rather big.
Yeah.
Would have essentially filled his tank. The Roman rock, so that didn't work. Let's see, T. Montano, Tisha, hi Tisha, Mr. B's, CPD, Broadcast Illusions, Michelle Lucia, Stephanie Frederick, Last Box Fox. Who else? Skippers, hi Skippers Aquariums, Red Eye Aquatics, Jane Campbell, Tisha Broadcast. I think we got everybody here.
Well, you got Fishing, Tink Tix, you got Levi, John from MTF, and TJ's New Life, James Handy, Mike's Aquarium, One Wanderer, and I think you got Mr. B CPD. So I think okay, I think we've covered that, and then it's just the new people coming in, Tam and David, Shane T, Joan, and Lori Monster Fish Gal, Chevy Fish. All right, I think we've caught up there. Oh, now we're getting an echo. What are you doing? You pressing the button?
I got it. It's covered.
Oh,
Okay.
so anyway, yes, good morning, everyone. Hi, Falconry Fun. You know, my plants are doing great, except my 55 has light brown dusting on all my Sprite and green Kumbamba. I'm assuming it's tannins. Light brown dusting?
Probably. It's hard to say.
Well,
Is it like a dusting that comes off if you touch it?
You think it's
Or,
tannins?
or does it
Dichomel?
kind of stick?
Yeah. Good morning, Tree 77. If it's actually growing on it, then it's an algae, a diatom algae.
Diatomaceous algae, yeah.
Yep.
But if it's a dusting, yeah, it's just something
But
settling out of the water column.
Yeah.
Plants capture particulate matter in the tank. One way to clear water is to have a lot of plants, because they will actually attract and attach the tiny particulate matter to them. It doesn't glue to them, doesn't stick to them, but it does settle on the leaves, such that if you brush the leaf, it'll all come up in the water column again. Now, it's not a wonderful way to clarify your water. All I'm saying is it happens. It's a characteristic of plants because they're providing a lot of surface, and simply as surface, detritus lands on it, or waste, or little tiny particulate matter, whatever it is. Hello, Sister Luckmo.
Yes,
Nice
good
to
morning.
see you.
And JBV.
377.
And if it's a new tank, it is prone to that algae. Can be.
Right, and to the dust, yeah. Somebody on Discord had something similar to that. They showed a picture of it, and it was like a thin layer of particulate matter on top of the substrate, but it was like it was in solution. It was not laying on the bottom. It was in the water column, but right on the bottom. It was weird looking.
So sort of like coagulated in the water column?
Yeah, kind of, but it wasn't coagulated. It was not slimy. It was, there was some discussion. I initially thought it was a slime from overfeeding, and then I went back and I reread the comment, and they said it wasn't. It was a brand new tank. My hunch is that it was material that came in with the sand that was simply lighter than sand, and so is sitting up on the sand and not really sinking down in it. the way detritus or waste would. So I recommended simply siphoning it off.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, absolutely. Hi, Karen and Alec. James is saying he uses HOV to polish his water, free of particulates.
Yeah, that works.
That's the
That
way.
works.
That's the way to do it.
Sponge filter, sponge filter does too. I use a lot of sponge filters, and they do a really good job of polishing the water.
And you can do, smaller water changes to help clear up some of that if you want. There's
Right,
many ways. Or you just
anyway,
wait.
right, it'll go away.
Wait.
No, I trim Vallisneria.
Yeah.
No, I do not trim Vallisneria. The only time I've ever trimmed it is when I trimmed a dying leaf and then discovered that the best way to deal with a dying leaf is to pull the whole thing off, the whole dead leaf. If it's unsightly, you don't like it.
Oh, yeah.
Howard Van Tassel, hello. So no, I never trim Vallisneria. If you do, you create a dying tip. You kill the edge of the plant. So you may as well, if you want to, if it's growing too long, then change your aesthetic and allow for canopying. One of the things that is most remarkable about country roads all around the world is trees growing along the side of the road that are canopying over the road. So it feels like you're driving through a tunnel. That same kind of effect in a tank where the long leaves are canopying on the top. If you look at it the right way, it's very attractive. It's not preventing light from getting into the water column and reaching the plants. The light passes through it and around it. It's a personal aesthetic, but my sense is I like it personally.
Yeah.
I like the look of it. I like the feel of it.
Cool. Yeah.
I guess some people don't.
So
it's difficult to trim it though, because when you start trimming Val or Sagittarius,
right.
you wind up killing it.
I mean, Alec jumped in here with, since you're on the Val question, he says, what's the best way to manage the grow area of Val? So that's right in line with your way of trimming, correct?
Well, what you can do is find a way to direct the leaves, maybe toward the back of the tank or the front of the tank. Just try to kind of channel them. I don't know what your issue is with them. If your issue simply is they've gotten too long and they've reached the top, that's okay. If your issue is that they're blocking the light, then push them aside and find something that'll hold them aside on more permanently.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you ought to just take them out. I mean, if they bother you that much, then remove them, because otherwise you're going to wind up killing them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're at any plant too much. Yeah. FL Test says, can you use a substrate like fluval stratum with a sand cap to achieve a sustainable tank?
Yes, you can. Absolutely. Let me see what's going on with my phone.
If you already have that tank set up with a fluval stratum, don't vacuum it, don't do anything, just cap it. But if you already have plants in there, Father Fish would suggest capping it slowly, a little bit every week.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
If it's already set up, if it's not, and you just want to use fluval stratum and cap it with sand, then just go for it. But if it's in an existing tank, just go.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It will be slower.
Right.
but it will get to the same place. It'll take about a year for it to build up enough enough malm in the substrate to begin acting as an anaerobic engine. But it'll work. It'll work fine.
Mm-hmm.
You can thin out some of the leaves, Deborah's suggesting. Yeah, that's a fix.
I feel like you can to a point, but you can only cut so much off of a plant before you start hurting it. So like you said, if you don't like where it is, then I'm kind of with you. Just move it and put something different. Move it to another tank where it won't be in your way. If it's not.
Yeah, the other thing is if you're gonna take leaves off of a plant, take the outside leaves off, not the inside leaves. The outside leaves will die anyway. The inside leaves are where the growth is occurring.
Yeah, you are 100% right. That's your new growth area.
Yeah, and Alec is saying I like shade and bright spots. Yeah, that's right. It gives you a nicer feel in the tank, a more I don't know.
Well, it's a natural look. You would have shaded areas if you were looking at a pond or a situation like that. Between your tree shading and your floating plants. I mean, I think that's how most water columns are. There's light and dark areas everywhere.
Yeah, and Chevy is saying if the leaves are dying, pull the whole leaf off at the bottom.
Right.
Yeah, and the way you want to do that is don't pull up. Get your finger down there right at the crown of the plant and push that leaf down to tear it off at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Don't pull it up because by pulling it up, you're going to pull up the roots. Or at least we'll jostle them enough that you will break off all the little tiny cilia. So try doing it the opposite way. Try to literally push that leaf off of the crown by pushing down on it. Kind of peel it off. Think of it as an onion ring that you're peeling off.
Right. But I just, I treat them the same way I would a house plant. You can see the leaves you would take off a house plant. It would be a similar thing.
Exactly right.
In your aquarium, it's really no different. Just a little more difficult because you're trimming in water. So what is T. Montano's asking? How do I aquascape tanks? Do what they do with almost no substrate, like half an inch, and what dose Father Fish thinks of ADA substrates. I wish Shimano was alive to talk to Father Fish. I'd love to hear that.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
That would be fun.
So
how do aquascape tanks do what they do with almost no substrate?
Oh.
And what does Father Fish think of ADA substrates?
Yeah.
Actually, his substrates were deeper in his permanent systems. Now, he did display systems that were designed specifically for display. They were not designed for long-term growth. His long-term growth displays all had deep substrate. Check on that. I'm sure you'll find them right.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't tell the difference because all of them had many. He was a photographer. That's how he got into planted tanks and natural substrates as a photographer. And he determined that shooting aquatic environments provided a uniqueness and a kind of beauty that that was new to him and that he really enjoyed and appreciated. But he was a nature photographer, a Japanese nature photographer. And if you know anything about those guys, they're all about perfectionism in their nature photography. Mount Fuji is the star subject of every Japanese nature photographer, and they shoot it in 1,000, 1,000,000 different ways. And he did all that, and then when he discovered aquaculture, it just opened up a whole new world to him, and he went wholeheartedly into that. I remember reading an article about somebody while he was alive who went out to his studio and was able to walk right in it, and was surprised to see that while there were all of these beautiful tanks, beautiful displays, at the end of the aisle was a big metal cabinet, and he opened the door. It was full of photographic material, cameras and film and so forth, demonstrating that was really the purpose of all of his displays. Now, what he did was, because of his commitment to nature and a natural environment and trying to create that, he moved more forthrightly into the process of developing technologies to actually create a natural substrate, and had a whole lot of additives that he put in. If you follow the green machine uses all of Amano's additives. I do the same thing, but I do it without spending $25 for a little package. I go to the garden supply store and I buy the same product in big bags and mix it up myself. So my additive is comparable to Amano's. I sell it for $20. If you added up everything I've got in mine and compared it to Amano's, it would be about $400 worth of material. So, that's kind of interesting. But that was the other thing about Amano. He was, like some other people we know, a marketing genius. But he also was a genius at creating absolutely magnificent living scapes. And I think the piece he did in Spain, which was to be torn down after a year, but I understand is being kept in perpetuity, is a prime example of the genius of what he was able to do. As with so many brilliant people, they seem to burn out and die young. Sad that is. It's old farts like me who struggle and stray. And never quite achieve magnificence, who last forever. But anyway, the Spanish system has a deep substrate. It's not all half-inch. The half-inch were done for photographic purposes. He did deeper substrates for permanent displays. He had permanent displays in his office, in his studio, and they were all much deeper substrate. Although I don't know that he ever adopted a sand cap. That, to the best of my knowledge, is my application. I don't prefer it, frankly. I prefer some of the really much more attractive small gravel substrates, but they simply don't work as well. I had a woman in yesterday, exactly the same issue. She's got a very tiny gravel in her tank, half an inch deep or maybe 1 inch. And she wanted to know what to do. She liked the gravel, wanted to keep it. So I convinced her to take it up, put down sand, and cap it with the gravel, but to leave some of the gravel in the bottom in order to generate that immediate organic organic substrate, because that gravel has been there in there for years and has a lot of bacteria and mold in it.
Yeah.
But I agree wholly with how much more attractive the gravel is. When I get these tanks here set up, I'm going to work with that some and see if I can find some better colors and qualities of sand and some tinier gravel that might work well.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it deeper if you do 3 to 4 inches of the very fine gravel. That should actually work fine. It's just a matter of slowing the water flow down. That's really all it is.
Yeah.
Thank you for T for that question. It's a big subject and a big topic.
Well, and they're backing up farther down in the chat. They're saying they're using, father fish substrate, and it's better. They're using your method. So, and that's good to know. You want to move on to another question, or did you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So Paul is asking, my mystery snails have laid massive clumps of eggs on the underside of my glass cover. Will they hatch? If not, will my fish eat them?
They will hatch. They're laid out of water. It takes, I don't remember how long, about a month for them to hatch. And unless you have fish that eat small snails, they will survive and they will grow, and you'll wind up with 100 or more mystery snails, which will completely glut your tank.
Right.
So you'll have a nice market in mystery snails. I like them. I like them a lot. Go ahead and let them hatch. They will. They'll do a nice job on your tank. And when they get too big, you'll have something really nice to trade, or even sell to your pet shop. Your
Right.
pet shop will be delighted to take them because there's a constant call for snails.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can get a bunch of them on trade, they'll be thrilled to do that.
Yep. I'm going to read you a little statement, and then I have a question for you. This is from Howard Van Tassel. I let my plants be natural. I spent many years trying to grow them and couldn't using chemicals and more chemicals. Thanks to Father Fish, I have been growing plants without issues. And then down below he says, so I don't monkey with them. And it's true. Sometimes just, Father Fish's method works, and don't mess with them. And then Christina Whitaker says, I want to do a planted tank for my daughter's betta tank. She has African dwarf frogs. We have been told not to have sand in the tank with them. Is that true?
No. They are better off. They're better off with sand. Whoever gave you that advice doesn't know what they're talking about. I mean, literally, they don't know that that's true. They're saying it's true because it gives us something to say that sounds important, but it's absolutely false.
Okay. So just set it up like you would your normal tank?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Tree 77, yes, you can still get his additive. He's selling it on his store on Get Gills. So if you go to Get Gills store, Chevy put it in there. Yeah, so go to Get Gills and then click on the Father Fish store, and you'll see what he can offer you. But I know his additives are for sale on that site.
Let's see. Reese wants to know if he can cap the gravel with sand. Yes, absolutely. 2 inches of sand on top of the gravel.
Yep. People are talking a little bit about flaked food.
Yeah, I was trying to get back to the original. Somebody had recommended, and I wanted to see what it was.
Yeah, there's a lot of all the stuff flaked food talk in here, and I don't know where it started.
Tetra Flakes. James Handy is feeding Tetra Flakes. Been feeding them for 60 years. I have an angel breeder friend who fed Tetra Flakes for years and years. I finally got him onto Omega, and he preferred it. He found that he did not have to feed as much, and there was not as much waste. So yeah, and he had been feeding Tetra Flake for about 40 years. So even old dogs learn new tricks. The bell is at the shop. I will be sure to bring the bell home.
Yes, the sand bell, absolutely. Maybe you could even mount it so you could just sing it.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to figure this whole thing out.
Well, you will. We know you're in a transition period. Chris Stubbings has a question, Father Fish. Can I mix golden killifish and blue lyre-tail in the same tank? About 4 each in a planted 40-gallon.
What were they again? Blue lyre-tail?
Golden killie and blue lyre-tail killies.
Blue lyre-tail. Blue lyre-tail what?
I think, well, I'm assuming killie, but is that a kind of killifish? I just assumed we were talking 2 kinds of killies.
That's what I'm thinking, that they're killies.
I think that's what he's asking.
You might have a problem. The males, I don't know enough about killies to know how they behave when they're mixed. I know all the killie breeders keep them separate by species. Now, they may do that simply to keep them from crossbreeding, or they may do it because the males fight. I don't know. Perhaps somebody else, Chevy Fish, knows. We'll have to get her to Chevy chime in on this. I don't have an answer.
Yeah, they're both killifish. Yeah. Good morning, Nicole. Good morning, Jason. Yeah, I mean, I've only kept them once, but I know what you're saying. The males can be aggressive.
Yeah, I would assume that would happen. I've never done it. I've never mixed killies.
Killies, yeah.
So I don't know what happens when you do it. I mean, I've had a lot of killies.
Yeah.
It's just curious. You know, I've never tried to set up a killie tank with a mix of killie species in it. And I don't know why I haven't tried it. There may be something. It may be that way back when I was a kid, I did it and they killed each other, and I just have a negative reaction to it. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, so basically, it's like, I guess, do it at your own risk if you're gonna try it.
Yeah, try it and see.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Chris, if it's not working, separate.
If you don't care that much about your killies, try it and see.
Yeah. I see
James is saying it does feed other fish. I've had some people tell me they really like the Tetra crisps. One other thing I should say about that, in fairness, the rep that came in here a couple of weeks ago from, what's the German company that does all kinds of foods? It's not Sarah,
yeah.
Right. Yeah. He said they did extensive research on all of the foods, and they found that Tetra placed in the top 10, which surprised me.
That's pretty good.
I then asked him about the cornmeal, and he said it depends on how it's processed. And that kind of blew me away, because I assume that cornmeal is cornmeal is cornmeal. But maybe not all cornmeal is equal. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, he never called me back, never got back to me. So whatever that was obviously a little more than sales hype, and it came to nothing. I thought it might turn into something.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
full that I am. The interesting thing I came away with, however, is that they have designed and are marketing a deep substrate based on building an anaerobic layer. And I find that remarkable that there actually is a commercial product that's on the market that does exactly what I am recommending fish keepers do. So that was pretty good. I'm just going to move forward and do it myself. Jody and Jody have been kicking this around, and they want to try to develop it commercially. So we're going to see if we can put together some kind of a partnership to do just that, to try to develop the substrate as a commercially available product. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, that could be exciting. Are you ready for a question?
Absolutely. Doesn't LRB? Yeah, Deborah is saying, does LRB use Tetra? I think he does. He uses a lot of
the Tetra-colored tropical granules. That's what he uses.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. So Icy Exotic says, why is my polar blue parrot fry have such a size difference? Many micros, but then other half are bigger.
Wonderful question. And I have the answer. That's a wonderful question. You will notice in any school of fish that come out of a specific hatch, if it's a large school, there will be a variety of sizes.
Mm-hmm.
A few will be very large. Most will be in a mid-range. It's like a bell curve, and a larger number will stay small. And the reason is it is a genetic device that exists to protect the species, such that if the food source collapses mid-growth, such that all of the larger ones die off, the little ones will still be able to survive, such that when the food comes back, they'll be able to continue to grow. So the variation in growth is, what is the word? It's an evolutionary, it's genetic, but it's evolutionary. It's an evolutionary device that protects the species in that specific population area from extinction. And try to understand then that a species typically exists across a range of environments that are essentially localized. The localization might be, it might be 1 mile, it might be 100 miles. Rarely is it more than 50 miles or so. Beyond 50 miles, you begin to get variations in the population. But it exists in kind of concentric circles. What may exist in a given pond in isolation. And so if it dies off there, it may take many more years for that same species to find its way back into that pond. in order to be able to thrive
Yeah.
again. So if the pond collapses, the babies, the little tiniest ones, some of them will survive. Maybe many of them will survive. They don't have the food requirements or the environmental requirements to be able to continue to live. Then when the tank balance or the pond balances itself again, they'll begin feeding and growing. So anyway, that's the reason.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the theory. That's the theory for the reason. Has not been proven false. It has been proven to be an effective explanation of why that happens.
Yeah. But in a situation where you're raising the fry in the tank, and I experience it with everything, and you're right. I mean, there's always some that grow faster, some that stay small. We don't have the situation where there's no food available to those babies because we're feeding them typically multiple times a day. If it bothers you or you think it's an issue, pull the larger ones out and separate them and split up your size differences. Those little ones will eventually reach the same size. It just takes them longer. But if you're worried about it, separate the two sizes and keep feeding.
Yeah, you should do that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I see it, and I do. I eventually pull my sizes and separate them up. But we don't have the lack of food in the fish tank because we're feeding them.
Mr. B says he finds the smaller fry eventually grow out to be the best breeders. That's interesting. I use my little ones as feeders typically, so I don't know about that.
Hey,
unless it's something really uncommon, in which case I'll try to save everything.
Right. But I mean, everybody has their own way of doing things, and I'm not going to say that you're wrong for feeding the small ones, or somebody decides to keep the big ones. That's why we all have our own fish runs and get to do what we want. We can
that's right.
And
we haven't really discussed that much. I'm sure we'll be getting more into that as I get into my own fish room.
Yes.
Yes.
I agree.
Who was it? Somebody just made a comment.
I've got a question totally in a different direction when you're ready.
Oh, Karuna Karan wants to know when he separates the male bettas from the fry. You don't need to ever. I do it when the fry are free swimming. And then I provide a tiny food for them.
That's
and I do it mainly, because the male ignores them at a point. He's still not going to eat them, but he will ignore them. And he might eat them. You never know.
Well, I just do the same thing. When the babies start, swimming around, they're free swimming, I pull the male. That's how I do it. So Mike has a question. Father Fish, 11-inch Fahaka puffer in an 80-gallon by himself. Would like to add friends for him, but afraid he's going to attack them. What can I possibly put in there that he won't eat? Fahaka puffer.
Plecostomus, probably. You could do that. If you put any kind of catfish or eel or that sort of thing, he's going to take concept of it. I had an experience recently. This will help you. I acquired a large group of sirens, which is a Florida salamander, big ones, about a foot long, that Frank caught last fall. And they did extremely well, kept them for a long period of time. In the process of having to move stuff around, they wound up in a pond, a big, like a 300-gallon pond, with a fairly large lungfish, African lungfish. I began noticing, I had other fish in with them. I began noticing bites on the salamanders. And I had at that point flower horns in there, a big Texas cichlid. I figured that's what it was, so I pulled them out. Kept happening. Moved that was they were at that point in my 500 gallon, and then moved them into the pond. And all of a sudden, I had two left. I pulled all the others out to do that video I did on about them, about the sirens. Two of them left, and I looked at one day, and there was a dead one, and it was half eaten. I mean, it had big chunks of flesh that were bitten out of it. And it dawned on me it was the lungfish doing it. The lungfish, 12-inch lungfish. They don't have teeth. Oh well.
Didn't stop
They
him.
got a bite. I determined I don't want to get bit by that sucker, because he can tear big chunks of flesh torn out of that siren, and of course they died. It killed them both.
Right. Well,
So, yeah,
I mean,
the puffer's in the same category. A puffer's an aggressive feeder.
Yeah.
The only thing you can put in there is something that it cannot eat or won't try to eat. A large pleco probably would work. I don't know what else I'd put in with them. That's why people keep them by themselves.
Yeah. I don't know either. I mean, at some point you try something, you're taking a chance that, it's going to work or it's not going to work. It's an experiment.
Yeah, the puffers are biters too. I mean, they'll bite anything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're aggressive and they got a jaw. So, yeah.
And all they're trying to do is feed,
Right.
Put a lobster in there. That'd be interesting.
Oh, Brandon, you got your power back and your internet. Oh, good.
Nice.
And so, where'd it go? I don't know who it was, but the question is, I think my chat moved. Sorry, I don't know who. Oh, T Montana. When do I separate female guppies, and how can you tell when they are small? So basically, how do you sex your guppies when they're small?
Oh, well, you said I don't leave babies in with adults.
Number one.
Not if I'm trying to grow them out and trying to do a line breeding program. And you just have to watch them carefully. When the anal fin begins to thicken, and you can see that at about a month, it'll begin to thicken. As soon as that starts to happen, that's a male. You need to get him out of there. So you pull out the males and put them in a separate tank just for males. You can keep a whole mix of males together and it won't be a problem. Unless you want to keep the genetics for that male, in which case you need to keep that. You need to keep all those from that class by themselves. But as soon as that anal fin, it's the fin on the bottom of the fish, as soon as it starts to get thick, and you'll know what that means when you see it, then you take him out before he forms the gonopodium, which is the organ he uses to inject sperm into the female. So you want to get him out before he is capable of doing that, or you will not have virgin females.
Exactly. And it's hard. We're not saying it's easy. It's hard. You have to sit in front of your tank daily, trying to separate. It's not something
every day.
Yeah, it's not something you just got to sit down and do in one day. You got to be there every day, potentially pulling fish. So it's a project. It's a project.
How often do I clean Rohan? How often do I clean canister filters? When they quit working, when the water doesn't flow through them anymore, that's when I clean them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Hi, my the bird dude says, "Hi, my crawfish lost a claw while molting yesterday. Will he be okay? Will it grow back?"
Yes. It'll take two moltings for it to grow back. You'll see a little tiny lump begin to develop. And if you watch it, it'll grow into like a claw in a package, a folded over claw that'll look sort of like that in a little cellophane package, what looks like. And then when it sheds, it'll open up and pull out, and it'll be half size. So by
Yeah.
the second shed, then it'll be full size.
Hmm. I'm looking. Yeah, Mike's aquarium says, "Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. He has a
My
buffer."
kabamba, a tan shepherd, my kabamba that I put in the sand on Saturday doesn't seem to be looking well. But one piece that's floating seems to have a couple little roots. Yeah, well, you can. Give it a little time. The problem with kabamba is that it is handled atrociously. Uh, it is kept, when it's harvested, it's fine. But then it's put in huge boxes, packed down tight, with no water and no light, and stays in those boxes maybe for a week or 2 weeks at a crack, subject to all kind of temperature fluctuation. When it comes into a local shop, they take the whole mess and throw it into a tub. So it's suffering the same thing. Now it's in water, but it probably has inadequate light and is not separated out and given a chance to grow. So by the time you get it, it has been suffering for upwards of a month and may very well not survive. When you buy kabamba, try to be careful what you're buying. Try to buy plants that look good, that are growing, not plants that are just in a big tank full of them. Don't buy that
Oh no,
because
yeah,
they're probably not going to make it. A plant will reach the point where it can no longer survive. It
right.
may look like it's alive, but if it looks weak and limp, if it's wimpy, if it's kind of softened and folding over, don't buy it because it won't make it. If leaves are falling off of it, don't buy it.
Right. Um, James was saying that he has luck floating the stem plants to get the roots to grow and then planting them. Do you do that, Fatherfish?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
That
that
gets
way they don't rot.
maximum light.
Yeah, and they don't rot before
Yeah,
they get
yeah.
the root. So try that. Um,
Yeah, Roman's saying there's no gap, no lag between us.
I know. He's like, "Tastes pretty good." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Good."
Yeah,
Don't.
every
We
once in a while, Joey and I really get it on.
should. Okay, we're not. Yeah, that's it. We're on today. Um,
Stop
now
your
you made
call.
me lose my question because you thought you were being so funny, and then I couldn't respond because it wasn't. I couldn't. Somebody, there was another question, but I see Exotics is asking. I think it was them. My chat just jumped all over the place. Somebody's asking about pea puffer breeding tips.
Oh, Lord, I've never bred them.
Yeah, me either.
I have no idea. Set them up in a tank by themselves, do a little rock pile, feed them a lot of worms. You got to feed them well and hope for the best.
Yeah. Stephen, you're asking about feeding green beans to your bristlenose? Sure. Why not,
Yeah,
right?
any kind of vegetable. You bet.
Yeah. That's all good. I'm sure that some of the other fish will pick at it too. There was another question.
Not Tisha. Tisha's looking for another tank.
Okay. Oh, no, it was Ram Kumar. And hello, Ram. Father Fish, good morning. I have a 15-gallon planted tank in which 2 adult platies and 10 fries and snails. Should I separate the fry?
It depends.
Right.
If you have a lot of cover, they'll probably survive. You may lose 1 or 2. If you want to ensure that you get them all up to size, then by all means.
Right.
But with and by cover I mean plants. If you got a lot of plants, they should survive without much trouble. Right? The platies are not particularly bad. Look at Lee's tank; it's full of platies. It's a 50-gallon tank with 100 or more platies, and he started out with a pair.
Yeah.
And they've all grown out in that tank.
Like you said, unless you're doing something specific, that community breeding is fine, and you might lose some, but they're going to have another drop. So, like Father Fish said, you will eventually have a tank full of platies.
Yeah.
Of all different sizes.
Oh dear. We're done lab.
It's not his favorite plant. We're done lab.
We're done lab.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
At 9:51. All right.
I didn't read that.
We had an issue with this yesterday, and we dealt with it by sending the conversation off to another format, to Discord. Right. I will give a brief answer to this. And after which, if there's continued conversation, I recommend we take it to Discord, in which one whole channel has now been wiped out. It's getting bad around here, folks. Listen, I think it's a cute comment. It's really kind of funny. It's certainly silly. And abject nonsense. That's interesting. There is something I can say about this. One of the male guppies have a bad reputation. They do. They've got a terrible reputation. And I think it's uncalled for. I really do, for 2 reasons. One of which is that a male guppy will not try to breed with a female guppy that is not ready to breed. They just won't. He's not going to waste his time and effort. He's not trying to mount everything that floats. So, it's I think it's just a bad rep, that's all. I think guppies got a bad rep. Male guppies got a bad rep.
They're just busy,
Yes, and they're doing what they're created to do.
Right.
But that does not include rape. So they are not rapists, if you will. They're not trying to breed with juvenile females or females that are otherwise having babies or pregnant or whatever. They're breeding with the females that are saying, "Hey boy, I'm ready. Come and get me." That's what's happening. So if you want to blame it on anything, blame it on the girls, not the boys. They're in control.
Okay, we've covered that, don't you think? Let's move on. I'm just going to comment that Monster Fish Gal. So Lori must have bred pea puffers, and she just said to Icy Exotics, feed them bloodworms, keep the tank at 79, and have plenty of plants. So that's the tip, I guess, on breeding pea puffers for anyone who's interested.
Plants, great. Okay.
Sounds like she's done it. Has experience.
Nice.
So we're good.
All right.
And I don't see. Yeah.
Who is this? Icy Exotics.
Yeah, they've asked a few questions. They were the ones asking about the puffer, the
Oh, all right. The
the
Fahaka. The
fahaka.
Fahaka.
Yeah, I was like, what's the name of that puffer? The fahaka. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Icy Exotics is now blue.
Okay.
Now has a wrench.
You just got a wrench because you asked some good questions. You would get one if you came back 1 or 2 times anyway, but he loves a good question. That'll get you a wrench.
Oh, real guppies
That's
display
something.
their behavior if kept together.
Actually learned that.
Interesting.
Huh. All right, so
Alex says my ex-girlfriend called me a male guppy. See, there you go. There you go. That's pure feminism at work.
all right. Get out of my coffee. Bogey's trying to drink my coffee. Get out of my coffee.
The bird dude.
All right, I'm scrolling back because I don't see anything right down at the bottom for a question. So I'm just kind of going back, see if there's anything.
Well, let's deal with Tisha. Tisha's talking about she'd like to have a decent small size second tank.
Yeah.
Want to buy it from the thrift store, but everything's closed. So the bowl is my only option. Well, bowls are fine. You can do a bowl.
Yeah.
Just do a bowl. Then when the shop's open, you can do a third tank. Because you're going to want more than 2 anyway.
Do you
So
have
do the bowl, get that under your belt. Get the bowl going. You might follow up on casts. There are a number of people doing bowls. Actually, there are a couple of pretty big channels on bowls. I would check with them and look at Cass's. She's got some nice bowls and some pretty good ideas.
Do you have, like, we have things like Craigslist here where people, advertise stuff and you can just buy it. We bought some stuff where we literally just leave the money and pick it up outside the door, Do you have like a little online swap thing like that where you live? I feel like there's always people selling fish tanks. There's always somebody, selling a fish tank or 2. But we did that. We picked up some chairs. We literally left money in the mailbox. They left the chairs on the porch. We picked them up for our shop and loaded them in the car and left.
Sister Lakma was talking about this. Somebody else asked me about this the other day. They're calling it the ebb and flow biofilter. It's a filter that has a container like a bucket, and the water goes through the filter into the bucket, and when the bucket fills, it tips over. And dumps.
Oh,
and
like the whole bucket dumps?
Yeah.
Well,
then you get a like a wave action.
Yeah, but wouldn't that disturb your substrate? I feel like that would be really bad.
Well, I don't know. It could, sure.
I feel like it would just pour a hole right in your substrate. Maybe I'm wrong.
It reminds me of the bio wheel.
Right.
It is a gimmick. It is something to entice you
Kevin.
to spend your money on it because it's cool and it's neat and it's different and it's interesting. I don't think there were systems like this developed for reef tanks to create a wave action, because on the reefs there's very strong wave action where the water just rushes in one direction and then rushes in the other direction. That's very difficult to achieve. in a freshwater tank, I don't know any freshwater environments that where that naturally occurs. There are certainly streams, creeks, and rivers where there's a flow in the water, but I'm not aware of any where the water is dumped in a large quantity, like dump a gallon of water in a 50-gallon tank, and
Right.
then 5 minutes later dump another gallon in. Um, I think it would just be strange for the fish that would wonder, hey, what? Where
Right.
did
I
we,
mean,
where'd they put us now? Gee
right.
whiz. Come on, guys.
Um, I guess it's up to you if you want to try it, right?
You're right, absolutely.
Um, Fisher, what was she saying? I just.
Yeah, it sounds kind of screwy. It's cute. It's cute.
Yeah. I think I
Well,
saw something about. I think Tisha said two things, but she said the bowl is already running with soil in it, but I have blue-green algae issue. Too much nutrition, I heard.
you know, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. A lake edge biotope, Alec is talking about. Yeah, I like that. The the pygmy sunfish, which is native here in Florida, the Elosoma species. They live in various environments, but one of their primary environments is in ditches at the very edge of the water, where the water gets down to non-existent and goes to half an inch to an inch. They live in that half inch of water. That's where the males are. The males hang out in half an inch of water, typically where there are plants growing. So they've got that kind of cover, and they just sit there. They don't move around. They sit there. If a female comes along, attracted by the male, they will spawn with her. They're an egg scatterer, so the eggs then are scattered about in that little patch. And he does maintain an area, so they're a scatterer, but within a given area. And they patrol that area then to keep other males out and other females in to spawn. But it's very, very shallow. I've not tried to figure out how to create that kind of environment, but it would be fun to do it. Maybe do some kind of a tray right below the surface in the tank that they could get up on in order to be able to be in that very shallow water, and put it right at the front where you can see it. That would be fun to do. I will think about that. It's a good idea.
Okay. I found the question. It was from Donald Drew. It says, Father Fish, have you ever kept snails, particularly mystery snails, in 6.8 pH?
Oh yeah, I do it all the time. That's where I keep everything.
Okay.
Snails don't have any trouble with that. In fact, the mystery snails are the ones that are available commercially are exclusively coming out of Florida, and they're all grown out in hard alkaline water.
Um,
So no,
yeah, I
do
was just going
not.
to say, Tish is asking you about removing the dirt.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
That's not the problem.
Yeah.
Add a little more sand if you need to, and add some more plants, and stop putting food in it. And do a water change. Change half of the water.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at that. James has a good comment, though. He says not many fish live at the foot of waterfalls.
I saw that. Yeah.
It's
There's
true.
you
That's why
go.
I'm just like, this dumping in just sounds like no for me.
Well, they don't live right where the water is dumping in,
Right.
but they live adjacent to it, particularly
Sure.
the big ones, because that's where food is falling over and gets done, and they can snag it. So it's a prime feeding spot.
Right, but they're over in the calmer, like you said, the
Yeah,
like
they
sort of
never
like where the wake
understand.
comes in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not hanging out in the where the water's throwing them around.
Let me just dump this water on your head. Yeah. Um, no, I agree. I mean, and the tank is to me not a big enough body of water that you could do that and you can get away from it enough. You know what I mean? To have that constantly
Yeah.
dumping.
Radiant pudding has mystery snails with holes in them. There's a KH of 0. Well, he's saying calcium is 100 ppm. The
Well, the
KH is the calcium. KH is calcium. GH, general hardness, is 100. And you need calcium.
yeah.
So you can add it. You can add calcium. What's a good way to add it?
Well, I mean, obviously, we've talked about the crushed coral and the oyster shell, but that's more of a long term. But if you want to get something into them quicker than that, all right, I'm going to tell you something I do. I
Go
said I
for it.
wasn't going to say it, but I'll say it. I'll put a Tums, like a fruit flavored Tums, in my tank, probably about once a month, and let the snails eat it, and it works. I mean, I do other things too. I have veggie stuff and calcium stuff that I feed, but see, we're done like saying it too. Uh, you know, um, well, a calcium tablet, but I use Tums, and it doesn't. If you just let it go in and let them get on it, it doesn't bother the water. It doesn't hurt anything. But I would get more into your tank in general, into your substrates, such as crushed coral or oyster shell, for longer term. You're not going to fix those holes. It will not repair the shell. You can only get good growth going forward and hope that if they have babies, that the new snails get enough. Somebody else is suggesting eggshell, sure. Um, or if that's not it, then it could be the parasite. But I would say calcium is a good place to start.
Yeah, Alex has
But that's
said
a quick thing.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying a quick source is throwing a calcium tablet in, or even the Wonder Shell, just something that they can get to immediately, and then try to fix
Yeah.
your water longer term. Yeah.
Alex says he's seen African biotypes with a bucket dumper.
Hmm. Oh, Ice Exotics wants to know, what is your favorite freshwater snail, Father Fish?
Probably the nearite.
That's what I would go with. They're the best algae eater.
Yeah, and they're very hardy.
Yes.
Now I like the rabbit snails, mainly because they're really unusual and also are very hardy. They hold up. I've yet to lose one. They're kind of pricey. I've yet to lose one though. I've not had them breed, and of course the nearites, their eggs need to be in salt water to hatch, or very hard alkaline water.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tam's asking what guppies make good tank mates for female bettas. It's no specific guppy. It's whether that betta's aggressive or not.
Yeah.
Depends on your
bone
bed.
meal.
Bedders are all over the place.
Yeah, bone meal's perfect. I do
Sure.
bone meal as an additive
But
in
you're
my
getting that in the substrate. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You know, unless if you can't, if you got to do some, yeah, you got to do something to overall fix your water quality. But
Yeah.
short term, get some sort of calcium source in there for them.
Jason said, have you ever seen an mbuna missing its outer gill protection? Yeah, I've seen it in a lot of different kinds of fish. Angels, it happens fairly frequently. It's referred to by breeders as a blown gill. It is not a desirable characteristic.
Right.
It's not a healthy fish, and it's not going to do well. It's a genetic anomaly that that weakens the fish, keeps it from being able to grow and function normally, and they don't live real long as a rule.
Right, because they have a hard time processing, I think, the oxygen, and it's not something you want to breathe, in my opinion.
Yeah, the gill that gill plate, it moves and it causes water to flow. It's like a pump. It makes water flow over the gills. And without that, they have to be moving constantly to make that happen. And so they can't get the blood, they can't get the oxygen flow into their bloodstream as well. It's a bad deformity.
Yeah, and like you said, they just don't live as long because eventually it just doesn't function properly.
Right.
Suran, that's cool. She says her son found baby rabbit snails in the tank last night. That's awesome.
Oh my word, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
You sure they were not Malaysian trumpet snails?
Well, they'll find out.
I hate to say that.
Hi, Jonathan.
Don't mean to burst your bubble there. No, good luck. I hope that's true.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Oh, Father Fish, do you have any experience with freshwater morays? My LFS has them, and they seem to be doing well there in freshwater. I have avoided them because of online debate that they need brackish water. And hello, Jason Wilson.
Yeah, if you have hard alkaline water, they'll be fine. They'll do fine in that. And you can always add salt to the water. Or Epsom salts. Or baking soda. Epsom salts and baking soda, yeah. No, they're fine. They're a voracious little beast. They will eat small fish.
Oh, Christina says, my mermaids, I want to set up a brackish water just to see if I can breed them. They're $15 each here.
Oh my God.
That's very expensive. I can see why you would want to breed them. I thought about trying to breed them myself. I was like, that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, they're easy. Yeah, they're pretty easy to. It's just a matter of getting the eggs to hatch.
Right.
And that just takes real hard water, like brackish level hard water.
Sue Ann says they're positive that he only has rabbit snails and apple snails. Well, cool. That'll be fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Any thoughts on the noob narrates? The newbie narrates?
Where are you?
1019 KDB. Any thoughts on, is it the newbie narrates?
Danube. The Danube.
Okay.
I don't know any. I don't know. I would assume they're all basically the same conditioning and behaviorally. There are a lot of new ones coming out that have a lot of color and a lot of unusual characteristics, like horns and whorls, different colors of whorls. So we're going to be getting more and more. The ones here in Florida are very plain, solid color. Somebody, Nickel Rowe is talking to T Montana about using iron oxide. It is slow release, but that's the very reason I use it in my additive, because it is slow release. And I want something that's going to be there in a year that'll continue to be providing iron. So I use it specifically for that. I have other forms of iron that I include that are more quick release. But I find I use the iron oxide specifically because it is slow release.
Yeah. But that's when you're setting the tank up, right? I mean, these things you wouldn't.
Yeah, it's not an additive that you put in.
It's not an additive. It's what you start with in that dirt substrate. Some of these things he's talking about. You don't want it in your water column. I think rabbit snails are cute too, Emily. I don't.
Yeah, we need to try to get some of the fancy ones. I can get the horn. I should be able to get. They ought to be coming in. They're out of the Philippines. They can't be that hard to get.
So when you say Danube, is that the horn nerite? Is that how I know it as the horn nerite?
I have no idea. I'd have to look it up.
Okay. I was like, I've never heard of that. I've heard of horn nerites, you know, and the other colored nerites, but not. I have to say, I've had many, you know, different colors of nerites, and the olive ones are not as fancy and pretty, but in my opinion, they're the hardiest of all those varieties.
Yeah.
You know, they're not nearly sensitive.
How about that?
What? Oh,
look on
I like that. Pretty.
Yeah,
I like
pretty.
I like those black and white looking ones. Those two, those, and then the one.
Yeah,
to the
like
right.
that. Yeah.
So they're the zebra ones, basically. I've had the zebra ones before.
Right.
In the brown color, but not the black and white color. Those are pretty. I like black and white. I like them. I've just found those fancier ones to be a little bit more sensitive when you're acclimating versus the olive ones. That's my experience with them. The fancier ones are a little bit more sensitive.
Let's see if we picked up a gap there.
What?
Joey?
Hi. Oh, try it again.
Yeah, Joey?
Yes.
It's there, but it's only about a second. Joey?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, we're okay.
Okay. Yeah, John Quinn says the olive ones are the best. I mean, they are as far as being hardy, in my opinion. The other ones are prettier.
Yeah, the horn ones are too. And the ones I saw pictures of out of Japan were spectacular. They were rainbow colored.
Cool.
Stunning colors. Yeah. Bright reds and greens.
Chan says, I read somewhere that the zebra ones can only survive in brackish water. Is that true? Well, I've had the regular, like the brown and black ones, and they were fine.
They will survive in hard alkaline water. They probably will not do well in soft acid water.
Oh, JBV saying that those Danube nerites do not need salt water to reproduce. Well, I mean, they all reproduce in fresh water. My experience has been, sure, they're laying eggs all the time, but do they hatch in fresh water? Because they don't hatch. I mean,
that's the problem.
Lay eggs like but yeah, none of them ever hatch. And I have hard alkaline water. So, but for them to hatch, I would have to add salt.
I have had a few hatch without doing anything special to the water, but I do have extremely hard water. PPMs are up around 400.
I mean, I say that some of mine haven't hatched. I mean, how would I really know? Because I'm not trying. They're not. The fish are eating those babies if they're hatching, you know. But I just assume they're not hatching. Something about autocorrect. Yeah, I know all about autocorrect. Oh, I see. Yeah, the Latin name. Yeah.
One other thing about nerites. If any of you have had saltwater tanks and have kept saltwater snails, what are they called? The pyramid
Are those the turbo ones?
turbos? Yes, thank you. They have a very small foot. By contrast, for example, the mystery snail has a very large foot, and it can come. It looks like the whole snail's coming out of the tank. It's a big foot, so that they can, if they're upside down, they can actually reach their foot around the side of the shell and grasp the bottom and flip themselves over. A nerite cannot do that. Like the turbo, if it's upside down, it cannot right itself. So it depends on water flow or something coming along and moving it. In the wild, nerites live in shallow salt water where the water where there's wave action. So if they fall down upside down, the wave is going to roll them, and they'll be able to flip over.
Yeah. Chevy says she said nerites hatch but die shortly thereafter. So I'm assuming that's in freshwater, Chevy. So, you know, maybe they'll hatch in freshwater, but maybe they need the brackish water to grow.
It probably has a lot to do with food requirements.
Maybe. I mean, I never tried it. I mean, I think about it sometimes. Oh, maybe I would try this, but that's about as far as I get. Yeah, I'll try that someday. I have Missouri River water. GH is crazy high, but KH is very low. I have to add different calcium, tums, and eggshells. Yep. There you go. And as long as that tums isn't in a high flow area, it will just sit on the bottom and it won't make a huge mess.
Huh. Yeah.
But for me, that's in just a tank that has snails. I mean, obviously, if I had fish in there, they'd be at it, just sending it through the water column. So I can do that in a tank that just has snails.
All righty, we're at 10:30.
You hatch, okay.
You got one more question?
No, I was just reading a statement that yes, they do hatch. So I'm sure they're talking about the nerites. Oh, and you know, where Dunlap says fish tank should not smell like fish or. So yeah, they should. Mine smell like. I always feel like mine smells sort of like dirt and planty.
Like earth, yeah.
Yeah, earthy sort of smell.
Yeah. I agree, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think they should smell like. I mean, they're not going to be odorless, obviously, but yeah, they shouldn't smell like the sewer.
Right. If they smell bad, there's something wrong.
Right. But, for anybody that thinks they're going to keep a fish tank, new person, and there's not going to be any kind of an odor, there is an odor, just not bad. It's like, kind of like being around a pond or something. It's just like you said, it's an earthy odor.
Yeah.
And then, your tank's in good shape.
Yeah, I use my nose to detect problems with the tank all the time. If I smell something a little off, I go looking for it. And it's usually a dead fish.
Yep.
I pick that up real quick.
But
dead plants too. You can get an odor from dead plants.
Sure. I mean, dead anything. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Anything that's rotting. Yeah. Is going to.
Anything that doesn't smell right. Figure out there means there's something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. So Chevy says, yes, George. Freshwater, none lasted more than 3 days, but I never tried saving them, so who knows? Yeah, I get it. So, but if I was going to try it at this point, I would probably set up a little brackish water tank, and obviously just have the snails, and try to be able to feed them.
Pull some water out of the ocean you live next to.
Yeah, I got plenty of that.
Really? Yeah. All righty, we're gonna shut it down for today, folks. Today is Friday, so we will be here tomorrow at 6 in the evening and Sunday at 6 in the evening. And we want to invite you to come up and show off your tanks, chat a little bit, say hello to friends, give us a chance to get to know you a little better. It's our way of getting to know people a little better. So come on by tomorrow evening at 6 Eastern time and Sunday, and then we'll see you back here again Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Delighted to have you all in. How did we do? How did we do with the thumbs up?
Oh, I don't know. But thank you, Chevy Fish and Lori, as always, for being here and greeting and dropping links.
Yes.
And staying with that chat. You ladies are wonderful. We appreciate you. Anyone else drop any links? Appreciate it. And I don't know how you do
everybody here. You bet.
How did you do with the likes? If anybody hasn't given Father Fish a thumbs up, if you could, that would be wonderful.
And bless you all. We'll see you all this weekend or back here again Monday morning. Bye for now.
That's right.